Welcome. Thank you for listening to the Mind by Design podcast. I'm your host, Jana Parker. I am a licensed educational psychologist and I am a group practice owner, and my company is called Mind by Design. We are here located in Campbell, California, and I love to interview and connect with community providers because I feel like I need refreshers on what they do, even if I have kind of more constant communication with them. Sometimes I don't know these people at all, right? And I'm just trying to get to know them and understand what they do, what they specialize in, what their niche is, because it's very important to me as a community provider of kids and families in our area that we are able to connect our families to the services and supports and resources that they need. So today I interview Heather Erba, and she is one of the owners and founders of ConnectEd Developmental Therapies, which is here in San Jose, California. And we have a great conversation where she talks all about the services that they provide over at ConnectEd. So enjoy. Welcome, everybody, to the Mind by Design podcast. I am here today with Heather Erba, who is from ConnectEd Developmental Therapies, which is an amazing center in San Jose, California. And I'm really excited to hear what you have going on for the school year. So welcome, Heather.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Jana. We've worked together for a long time. So I am super excited to have this opportunity to kind of talk about what ConnectEd's been up to and how we're doing. I can do a quick big picture of our mission.
Yeah.
ConnectEd Developmental Therapies was founded, it's been 9 years now. So we've been in the community actively for 9 years. Our mission is really supporting children to be able to engage in their communities, whether that be at school or in play with peers or at home, with an emphasis on a brain-aligned understanding of regulation and social cognition. So we really work either in a one-to-one level or with parent coaching or in small groups, supporting both the child's own understanding of how they're seeing the world and really developing an individualized profile for kids. So we have small group works that we call our Playdate program, which is probably our hallmark program, as well as some individual work and some family coaching and parent coaching in our clinic-based setting. We have another kind of division of the clinic, which we call ConnectEd Classrooms, which is a collaborative partnership with schools in the Bay, really partnering with teachers and staff to shift towards what we call a brain-aligned understanding of engagement. So again, moving away from a strict behavioral lens and helping teachers and staff shift towards a deeper understanding of behavior so we can really kind of regulate before we educate, and really bringing the science across different fields, neurobiology, social psychology, education, to really inform what we're seeing in our classroom. So helping teachers embrace more translational research practices.
I love that. Okay, my first question though is your computer moving around? Like, are you on an unstable surface?
I might be unstable. Am I floating for you?
Yeah, it's floating. And I'm wondering are you on a table?
I am on a table. Yeah.
That's so
It
weird.
might
Your
be,
picture.
you know what? Here, I can do it. It's my knees.
Oh, stop.
Totally what it is.
Oh,
Here, let me see if I can make that better. Yeah.
well, it still is moving a little. Is your table your knees?
No, I have it's a cross, because look where I am. I'm not even in my office because I have my college age daughter in my office and my husband in his office. So I'm on my chair on like a lap desk in my office. It feels like COVID times right now.
Okay. Oh, so you are on a lap desk. So it's on your lap.
Yep.
Got it. Okay. Stop moving your legs completely, or else we're going to get dizzy.
Better?
Yes. But how are you going to talk without moving?
I don't know, which
I
is a
know.
really interesting thing as we're thinking about regulation and this idea of what our kids need to be
Right.
available, right?
Right.
I mean, I think that that's really interesting. I can try to move. Do you want me to move?
Or I mean, you can try to stay still, but I would think that that would be really difficult, right? Like,
It
how
would
are
be
you
really
going to talk
difficult.
enthusiastically and passionately about your practice if you can't move around?
I am, and I definitely am a passionate advocate for
I
what we do.
know.
You know me well enough to know that I
Yeah.
am going to get animated. And look, if I do it,
Yeah. You shake
great.
around. So maybe you should move.
Okay, pause.
Okay, I'll pause. Here we
Okay,
go.
perfect. Do you want to
Okay.
start from the
Yeah.
top? Is what you want to do?
No. I think it's perfect that we just had that experience because you are so right in that in order to regulate, everybody's body needs something different. And I know I cannot sit still and talk about something that I'm passionate about. And like,
Right.
there's something to be said for like tolerance for what people need.
Right. And what we're talking about is really moving us towards that neuroaffirming practice,
Mhm.
which we're in the middle of this really exciting time in the field where the neurodiversity movement is really starting to have their voices heard. I really feel like it's an equal rights movement. It's helping us see neurodiversity in a diversity of disability as like a through that social model as opposed
Yeah.
to a deficit-based lens. So really embracing this idea of different profiles as a strength in our communities. But
Yeah.
you're right, whole body listening,
Right.
not what we're looking for anymore at all.
Well, even for me and my experience, looking at you, moving with your picture moving around, I was unable to concentrate on what you were saying as well as I might have, right? And so
Right.
the fact that like I could have just sat there and let the whole thing go by, but if I can say what it is that I need in the moment, then I'm going to be
100%. A little self-advocacy. Yeah.
right.
I
Right.
love that. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, but I am sorry. I probably could have been set up. I didn't realize we were launching right in, but you know
That's
me. I am
okay.
happy to talk about our practice.
Yeah, yeah. No, this is just super casual and I mean, people need to see the reality of us too, right? I mean,
Yep,
yeah.
absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
so okay, I really want to, can you give an example of the kind of work that you do in clinic, like an actual example? Because when I try to describe, like actually, maybe we start with this. Tell me the kinds of kids who are a good fit for your clinic in like really kind of specific terms so that parents would go like, oh yeah, my kid is like that, or oh nope, my kid doesn't fit that profile.
Absolutely. So we currently have kids in clinic in an array of different kind of supports and services from 3 up until 17. And we embrace, our foundational tenets, if you will, is a developmental lens. So we are developmentalists by training. We are really using that developmental understanding to guide kind of our goals and our services and our supports. So with our younger kids, we're really looking at play, or older, we're looking at more, we'll move through some executive functioning and organization skills, looking at that developmental social interaction, right? I like to tell families where we work within that developmental trajectory, which means nothing ever stays the same. And we're always kind of upping the ante on the kids. Um, our our supports are very language based. So our practice is probably split almost equally into children who carry a level 1 diagnosis, with that emphasis again on regulation and social cognition, as well.
Level one autism diagnosis.
Level 1 autism
Okay.
diagnosis, exactly right. As well as kids who are coming to us with more attention based differences. So ADHD, inattentive, or that range. And then we recently, of course, will get some social pragmatic sensory processing, and that what we call perhaps either pre-diagnosed or not quite hitting criteria, but really struggling with maintaining their availability to learn in part of a group or struggling socially. So often we'll have kiddos who will refer to us from Our younger ones often come from pediatricians. They'll come from preschools that we work with actively in the community, all the way up to, specialists. We contract with two different behavioral agencies, but we are not behaviorists. We collaborate with quite a few and then have two on staff who we contract with. And then we also in clinic have collaborate with an occupational therapist. So if we have kiddos who have sensory differences that are impacting their ability to play, impacting their ability to be part of a group, we're able to kind of integrate and weave in sensory supports. But our groups are language based. So we are looking at kids who are using words to communicate, who are comfortable at least regulating in a group of one other child, and then kind of will support and scaffold that.
And what kinds of—
Does that help?
Yeah, that helps. And what kinds of goals do these kids have? And how does this differ from an ABA kind of therapy?
It's a great question. And so we get this all the time. And I believe in what we a brain-aligned understanding of behavior. So we're not just looking at antecedents and consequences to change behavior, right? We're really looking at a deeper understanding of the whys behind that child's behavior. And that doesn't mean that we don't use behavioral strategies, because there are really powerful efficacy-based behavioral strategies. And I'll give you an example of one we definitely use. We use self-monitoring systems. So all of the kids who are coming to our groups have 2 to 3 individualized goals that they, throughout the course of an hour and a half group, are kind of reflecting on, and then we're checking them. So we use the self and match system, which is a efficacy-based self-monitoring system that we've worked with their founders, and really feel like that brings up the child's understanding of how their actions are impacting the thoughts of the people around them, or if they are able to follow the group plan. Because what we have found with self-monitoring systems is that very often, especially the kids who have dips or differences in understanding what's expected, kind of pulling out the clues from the environment, really need direct instruction and practice in that skill, because they really don't know what's expected. So how are you supposed to follow the group plan if you don't even know what the plan is? So very often we'll be breaking down and we'll start with that. The other tool that we use is the zones of regulation. So we have adopted that as our regulation system. Really are a big fan of their new digital curriculum. So that has been fantastic. So we pull heavily from the zones curriculum. We do pull heavily from social thinking, but it's interesting in that as we shift more towards a brain aligned understanding of behavior, I feel like we're incorporating almost like a deeper level of regulatory work. So we're really thinking about, where does that frustration feel in your body? How can we catch that early sign of frustration and kind of working through? So we regulate first. If kids come to us, that's what we work on first. We're working on regulation, and then we move, typically based on what the kiddo needs, to either sustained attention or perspective taking. So thinking about the thoughts and feelings of the people around them, really breaking down those skills to really help the child be prepared to play, be prepared to engage, be prepared to converse. So a lot of, we say you have to be self-aware before you can self-monitor, before you can have behavior change. So that's really the sequence that we follow.
Yeah. And that's a big undertaking too, because thinking about thinking is a really high level skill.
Right. And that, I think that's a really good point. So those, the kids we are typically working with, we have a large group of kids who are, recently being kind of identified as twice exceptional. So we work with that gifted population of asynchronous learners. kids who might have what we used to call kind of expected or intact cognition. So those are typically the ConnectEd
Yeah.
clientele.
Yeah. And so when you're doing a group, this might be a little specific, but like I'm trying to envision, you have a group of kids who come in. How do you like set up an activity for them to then be able to practice the skill that they're working on? Like, what does that actually look like?
We really lean heavily into the environment as almost another teacher, as we're kind of teaching situational awareness. So we lean heavily into visual supports and consistent routines. And we work closely with parents. So we preview what we're going to be doing with parents. Then we ask them to preview as the kids are coming in. We set up a lot of transitions because, as you can imagine, we're working on kids being able to navigate transitions. So within our 75-minute groups, there's at least 4 transitions that are really well supported by the environment. And we're really watching it and thinking about how the child's doing with that transition. And so at least, there's always a couple kids in each group of 6 that are kind of targeting transitions and able to navigate through that. Um, so we always have a transition coming in where they're checking how they're feeling. So they'll use that zones of regulation. They're letting us know what's going on in their body, how they're showing up. Of course, all the zones are okay. We're not asking anyone to be in the green zone, right? Please just let us know what's going on with your body right now. How are you feeling? We start with an open, just kind of chit chat, because often that's both a great goal for many of our kids. And challenging and needs some practice. So getting that repetition in, we do that around a snack. We really lean heavily into this idea of connection and belonging. So it's really important to us that our kids feel safe in our space. And so we take time building those relationships, not just with the ConnectEd specialist and the kiddo, but between, so peer to peer. Many, we call them our veteran families in our ConnectEd community, have been with us for a long time, and we'll be getting together outside of group and birthday parties and those types of things, which we feel like those naturally occurring social opportunities for so many of our kiddos is just critical.
Yeah.
Um, and we know how important that is. So we'll go through that transition. We've started incorporating a journal reflection. So we have a regulation tool of the week that they're then kind of reflecting on and talking about. Is that a good tool for you? Your toolbox is going to be very different than my toolbox. So we're really working through that, and it changes. Then we will do kind of more of a guided meeting where it's a conversation and a discussion, and then there's an activity around that. So this week in some of our youngest classrooms, we were looking at flexible thinking and the importance of that. So we were taking cooked spaghetti versus raw spaghetti, and really kind of manipulating that and thinking about the benefits. And sometimes that raw spaghetti is just perfect, and you get to have that stuck magnet thought, and that's fantastic. So we'll do interactive, and we're moving our bodies and using meditative and focused attention practices from the work of Lori DeSattles and DeSattles. And so, her work in bringing kind of polyvagal theory into practice has been really informed a lot of our work as well. And often we will try to, we always close with a closing circle and a ConnectEd challenge. So we'll bring it back together, close with a ConnectEd challenge. And throughout that time, they're reflecting on their individualized goals. We run our groups in 12 week in clinic. There are 12-week sessions. So within that 12 weeks, the families will be invited to a kind of a family overview meeting at the beginning, and then at the end of the session, we do individual family sessions, and everyone will kind of get a summary report at the end, which will compile their self and match data, kind of reflect on how they were doing in like our big picture goals. So this 12-week session is embracing the power of self-awareness. So typically in the fall, we do that self-awareness. And then in the winter and spring, we're moving into either a deeper dive into perspective taking or a deeper dive into executive function, kind of depending on what the kiddos need.
Do you get kids? This is always one of the things that this comes up a lot. Kids who, when they don't want to do something, how they deal with that frustration, how they build their frustration tolerance and how they, how we get them to participate in things that are non-preferred, that they don't like, that are challenging. Do you work on that at ConnectEd?
Of course. Yep, absolutely. You can't do that. We talk a lot about that idea of that window of tolerance, using Dan Siegel's analogy of we need to stay well regulated so we're not elevated into fight or flight or shut down, right? So we need to stay within that window of tolerance, and we teach this to the kids. Like we break it down and let them know. And we do talk about that when you're working right on the cusps of those areas, that's often what's necessary to meet our goals. Like we are often very uncomfortable. So we do, they're setting their own goals and reflecting on goal setting and talking about how it feels. So typically we'll start with thinking about a goal that they have done and how maybe, it was riding that bike or trying something new, or, and all of those and kind of walking through that process. And we're talking about catching that early signs of, oh, this is a little bit hard for me, right? And bringing the awareness around that. So then asking them to regulate earlier, because I think what happens is, especially interoceptively, they'll miss those early signs. So then we need to catch them before they dysregulate, and being able to stay there. What we talk about a lot with our kind of older elementary, middle school kids for sure is this idea of not letting yourself get overdrawn. So if you have your effort bucket, right? And we know that some things are more effortful for kids than others. So we talk about deposits and withdrawals a lot. And we say that when, you won't be able to work at that cusp if you're either overdrawn or low, right? So you might need to pause. You might need to get some extra help. You might need to break things down. You might, so all of that self-awareness work we do really intentionally and specifically. And then, yeah, we use all the behavioral strategies, right? We're going to do this first, then this, we're going to really set up those strategies. And now I will have kids ask, right? Because we always think, oh, you should do, the more challenging activity first and then move on to the preferred. And many of my kids, if they're given that opportunity, will say, oh, no, that doesn't work for me. I absolutely need to do that preferred activity first so I can settle in and take that breath, and then I'll be more prepared to try and give that effort. So you really need to give the kids that forum to be able to reflect on what works for them. And then it's part of our job is to really watch and see how we can keep them in that window, but helping them tolerate some discomfort. So that discomfort tolerance is huge.
Yeah. I know. Okay, let me ask you. I'm going to go fast because I know you're a little short on time. If someone didn't make it into a 12-week session, do they have to wait for the next 12-week session, or what should people do?
Our intake process is something that we are very aware of and always thinking about. So often we say at ConnectEd, the best way to kind of start and kind of the beginning of your ConnectEd journey is to join over the summer during what we call our Jumpstart to School program. So that's a program that we do try to schedule it that kind of that week before most of the local school districts start. So that's a daily program for a week. And many of those students will then roll into our school year program. There are there's no simple answer, right? I would just encourage people. We are in the process of relaunching our website, but it's still up. So, putting your inquiry in, completing the forms that are online, and then it's a phone call kind of interviewed it for both of us, for you all to get to know us. We currently, Shlomi Dink and I are the co-founders. So there's two of us who are co-founders, and then we have a team of 7 specialists who are working with us now in the clinic-based program. And so I will say that we are often full, but I just would encourage, families who are interested to just complete that process and go through it, because we may have kids who will move to generalization or move into one of our, our older groups or our more kind of socially based groups.
Awesome. Great. Well, we send people to you regardless of what time of year it is, if we think they're a good fit.
Great.
Uh,
And the
yeah.
same your practice for sure. And I'm always happy, to answer questions, so they can also just reach out and contact us if there's just a quick question about the work we do or the work we do in the schools, anything like that.
Amazing. Yeah, I would love to hear more about what you do with the schools, but we will just bring you back another time to talk about that.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah,
Excited about it.
Yeah, you're such a great community partner. And, we work with a lot of kids who need your services. And I love that you are getting into schools, because I think you can reach you can kind of help the kind of bumps before they start, if you can get to teachers and help them build a community that helps to facilitate learning better.
It's been such a amazing process, like partnering with our teachers, who we always learn so much from them. So it
Yeah.
is a true partnership. Um, and this shift towards understanding behavior at that brain aligned level, or at that deeper level, no one disagrees with you, but it's so hard. It's
Yeah.
so hard to do that shift, because it's triggering to us as educators,
Right.
right? And
Right.
so it really is, it's it's been interesting for me as I partner with my teachers to kind of think about that process. It's not as easy as I thought it was going to be, candidly. So
Yeah.
there's work to be done for sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you for all the work that you do in the community. And
And the
uh,
same to you and your amazing practice. Thank you.
yeah, tell everybody where they can find you. What is the website?
Sorry, the website is connected.us.com. So just www.connected, all one word, .us.com. And you can contact me as well directly, and that's heather@connected.us.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Heather of ConnectEd Developmental Therapies. You have been amazing. You continue to be, and thanks for joining me on the show.
You are so welcome. Thanks so much, and we'll see you soon.